I was on a bootcamp in London this weekend, and one client was having a hard time to get attraction. I told him that the reason women are attracted to you right now is you are still performing. So the next question is then how to define and develop your identity. What we are going to talk about now is how to express your identity. There's an old adage that the best way to attract women is, quote unquote, just be yourself. This one, those saying that simultaneously like 100% true and 100% useless. The problem with this advice is that the average man doesn't know who he is. He doesn't have a self, so it's pretty fucking hard to be himself, essentially. So you will have to do that first for yourself, which is technically to take the time to ask yourself what kind of man you are, what kind of life do you want to have, and what would be a best companion for this life. If you haven't done it, take the time to do that. Now, the other problem with just being yourself is that the average man doesn't have an idea how to communicate that side of himself effectively. He can be himself in front of his friend, but in front of women, he's either freezing up or communicate his personality in a way that is uncompelling. So what I'm going to teach you now is called compelling authenticity. And that's something that I learned from Jeff and observed directly from him for many years already. And how to communicate it in the most compelling manner. My goal for you is to know in detail why you should be doing that and 90% of the game between open and close. The overarching principle for all this is what's called honest signal. Honest signal are things that you cannot fake. They are impossible to fake. For instance, relaxed eye contact. Impossible to fake unless you give yourself large dose of tranquilizer. It's impossible to fake being very fit. It's impossible to fake not having your voice crack when someone is yelling at you. So let's understand a little bit about the progression of this meaning success with girls and community over time. So the progression is, back in the days, people will do all these little tips and tactics, and they would be scripted. They were called routine. And it was basically 100% contrived lines that are supposed to mimic what is honest signal of someone who's actually good with girls and actually higher value. And that is actually compelling for girls. So you go up and you would tell really a compelling story that illustrated how you had all these girls and you were rich, but it was supposed to come off as if you were not actually saying that you were rich, and you were actually not saying that you had all these girls around you. But then people caught onto this stuff and they started recognizing when people were telling this little routine. And so people dropped routine, but they still had other part of their game that were scripted. But then people caught on those things and they had to drop those scripts again. And it was a progression of having to go from this contrived tactic and these contrived lines to just more and more honest signal. And you see this in the real world as well. Think about the line, what's your sign? Well, that's supposed to mimic a guy who's really intuitive about women and can tell women something about themselves, because some guys figure it out that women are attracted to a man who have a good intuition into their life. Then that line cut on and the line became dead, essentially. I'll give you an example of a line that has recently become dead. Me and my friend Louis were talking recently how we heard a lot of guys using still after today, after party things. You know, when you tell a girl, oh, come to my house, and there's an after party essentially, which is funny to me to hear that. I take this more as a joke. Well, that hit the mainstream now, and that line is completely dead. So in real life, you see this progression where a guy will figure out a tactic that kind of mimic an actual cool guy, and he will use it, then he will become mainstream of people would catch on that. Then he will become dead. And the net effect of this is that game in general has gone more and more toward those honest signal things that you cannot fake, because all of this stuff that contrive will eventually come out. And most of this is already out. That's why we talk about building a strong sense of you, who you are, and conveying that authentically, because these are things that are real and they actually make you that guy. Even while looking over a lot of my old notes from back in the days, a lot of those things I was doing years ago were trying to mimic what a cool guy would do rather than just working on being that cool guy. And in my own progression, I have seen that now all of those things have been replaced by me, essentially just being that person that I was trying to be all those years. So the main theme for this part of the section is working on honest signal. There are things that will never go out of style because they are something inherent. So I thought really hard about what made me go through this, the transformation that is trying to mimic someone who has that certainty and that social intelligence, that what actually got me there. And there's two major epiphany. One was entitlement, which I touched a little bit on previous video earlier, which that entitlement is lack of feeling and lack of thought. And the other part was deservedness, really having that feeling of deserving things. And it's a logical knowing why you deserve this. You know, quote unquote, 9 out of 10s. And this is something that my friend actually asked me about after a weekend. You know, I've been with 2 girls. I pulled 2 girls in a row. And we were driving home, and he asked me, what allows you to know that you deserve all these girls, the quantity of girls that you sleeping with? And I ended up talking to him about this for something 2-3 hours, which I'm going to summarize for you right now. Imagine that you are in a situation where from the age of 14 to the age of 20, everyone is constantly kissing your ass. They are constantly telling you that you believe no matter what you say, they are true. They are constantly buying you things. They are constantly giving you validation for no reason. And everyone is doing this for you. All men are doing this from you from the age of 15. You have no idea why. People are flying you places. People are putting you in hotel. People are telling you that you're doing coke and drinking is good for you. There's no pressure for you to develop a sense of self. There's no pressure to develop a work ethic. Anything that happens, you will be taken care of. And you don't even understand why, but this is just happening from all angles. Well, this is reality of a lot of really hot girls that you see maybe in LA or maybe London, New York or Vegas nightlife. They have no pressure on themselves to develop who they are. And they are in a very weird position where society is kind of grandizing them. They're making them better than they are, putting them on a pedestal. They are putting them very on the top. They are putting them on billboard, like everywhere. You see them like in the fashion, everywhere. They are writing movies about some guys who just pines over the super hot girl and think that's the girl is soulmate, essentially. He think that girl is like the answer to all his problems. And he gets the girl and she's the answer to all his problems, like in his life. And what I saw in my times out was this disconnect between a hot girl that I was like actually dating and the type of confidence they had, the type of hobbies they had, the type of habit they had, the type of life that they led, and the way it was portrayed by other people, the way other people believe these hot girls are, the way I used to believe these hot girls are. So at any given time, there's always a range of thought and feeling popping up in your mind. And we want to get to that place where whatever you think, right, you are expressing out. But there is no way for you to ever be able to express all of that. If you were expressing, oh, it's warm in the room, my ass itches, if you express like everything there, you would never be in a way for me to express the myriad of thought and the myriad of like sensation and feelings that I'm feeling. It is impossible. However, there's usually one thought or feeling that is most essential to your current overall experience and most relevant to the situation. This is why the line, "Hi, you're cute, wanted to meet you," became so popular a couple of years ago. I mean, more than that, 5 years ago. Because the guys that were originally using it were in touch with that most relevant thought. And that was the most relevant feeling, and they were able to express it without flinching. That eventually became used by a bunch of other guys, but it wasn't the most relevant thought. It wasn't like the most essential feeling. So it came as off, incongruent, and just become a non-honest signal. So when that thought becomes clear during an interaction, you verbalize it. Then one thought leads to another range of thought and range of feelings. But there's usually one that is like the most prominent, more important and essential. So then you go that thought or feeling that leads to another one, which is the most essential in each case. What this is called? Well, this is essentially nerd speak for something called stream of consciousness. And it's exactly what we're going for. Most of my game at this point is based on rants. Something in the room will remind me of something I'm interested in, and I'm starting talking about that. It will lead to another range of thought, and then I will start talking about that things that interest the most. And then I will start speaking about something else, and I will end up just talking for a long period of time. And because that is my true personality, what you are learning now, talking on cognitive topics, really is my personality. And so I would do that in front of the girl, and it becomes very powerful because she knows that it's an honest signal and most congruent with who I really am. And it's the most essential part of me. So we are not advocating honesty as some intense moral code, but we are advocating it just because of its power. Because when you're honest, your sub-communication will naturally fall into line. So a little exercise on how to start doing this honest task is this stream of consciousness thinking. Number one, stare at a wall. Number two, wait for a range of thought or feelings to pop up. And verbalize the most prominent one. Wait for that thought to lead to a second range and thought and emotion, and then verbalize that one. And if you do this for 10 minutes a day, then go to the club and just start doing the same thing, you'll basically be set. And if you remember my example of the guy on the plane, the bro, it was another story that I made. And, oh, I want a beer, you cute. Typical like discussion like in a bar of the cool guys. It's just verbalizing things. Who the fuck does that? No one does this. And that's why it's so compelling, because it is speaking something true to who you are. Next part of compelling authenticity, creating a range of behavior through relaxation. When I look back at my successful interaction, what I see is a natural oscillation between many different behavior patterns. Part of the interaction, I'm loud. Part of it, I'm quiet. Part of it, I'm funny. Part of it, I'm serious. Part of it, I'm having fun. I'm being more subdued. Anyone who has meditated knows that just how many types of thought and emotion you're going through in a period of time. In fact, I first started doing hours of long meditation. I thought that I have a bipolar disorder, because for the first time I was aware of how many thought and emotion everyone goes through in a short period of time. This successful interaction with this huge range of behavior were a reflection of my natural internal state. So someone who's anxious may go through a lot of different thought and emotion, but they can only express an extremely narrow range. Think like James Bond. He might be playing cards, he might be fighting someone, he might be flirting, he might be happy, he might be sad, he might be telling a joke, he might be deadly serious. Part of the reason James Bond is so compelling character is because he has that range of behavior. Now, think about someone like, I don't know, Michael Cera is pretty much the same person in every movie. Why? Because he's anxious, and because he can't help that way. Because someone who's anxious, they are like, yeah, da 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 da, I don't know, da 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 da. That's the only way that they can act, being anxious, stifled with range of behavior. And being relaxed, expand your range of behavior. So why is this important? Well, for women, it's kind of like a 2-for-1 deal. A range of behavior, project, relaxation. And what does relaxation suggest? Well, it suggests that the guy lives a life of abundance, that is not worried about anything, that his life is going fine. And it would be a good life for her and her children. And that he has all the resources she needs, essentially. At the same time, relaxation allows a range of behavior. And what does that project? Well, it projects resourceful. Back to the James Bond. A very, very resourceful person, by showing a range of behavior, it shows that you have many different tools in your toolbox for which you navigate, you share life with that girl together. So both relaxation and a range of behavior go hand in hand, and they are both extremely attractive to women. By doing this one step, you are automatically projecting most of the good qualities that a woman looks for. Confidence, why not exactly the same as relaxation, and certainly parallel. They look extremely similar, which is why you will get these guys they do smoke weed and hang out on the beach, and you find out they fuck half of the girls in their small town. A lot of these bros, a lot of these jokes, the reason why they're just getting girls after girl is that they are extremely relaxed. They have those range of behavior, and that looks so similar to the confidence of a true boss, of truly successful person. That girls can't tell the difference, and they're ending up just getting these hot girls. So how do we develop this? Well, In the long term, it means exercise, eating a lot of greens, leafy vegetables, meditation, have your life handle actually solving these things in your life, that you feel relaxed and you feel carefree, learning to have fun, which we will get a lot for the bootcamp. Now, you might be thinking, well, I heard about all that stuff. I heard about all the exercise, the eating green and the meditation. Yeah, but how many of you are actually doing it? No, dude. What we're talking about is honest signal here. Things that you can fake, things that you will always be better than the things that you do fake. And that means actually going out and taking this action. I suggest that you view the things that Jeff and I telling you not to do. So, have some academic exploration, but as a real rule for your life. This is why we call these things standard operation, where there's a process and you apply those 8 rules. So go out and actually build these things in the long term. What about the short term? Well, relaxation in the short term comes from a non-resistance to thought and emotion. Everyone feels some sort of pain in their body at some point. Everyone has disturbing thought. Everyone has disturbing emotion. But what people who are naturally relaxed do is they don't take those thoughts and emotions seriously. And they don't offer resistance to those thoughts and emotions. So let's say you have the thought that your boss might yell at you tomorrow. If you just think, okay, that thought is where a thread ends. However, you start thinking, I shouldn't having those thoughts. And that leads to an anxiety feeling. And then you feel like, I shouldn't having that feeling. So you can start getting more anxious. And then you start getting more anxious thought. You're basically losing the battle. There is like a 5,000. What the fuck? And then you start getting more anxious thoughts. You're basically in a losing battle. There is a 5,000-old religion that is entirely concerned with non-resistance called Buddhism. So that's the short term, non-resistant to thought and emotion. Let's say you're having a real panic attack in the club, or you're feeling so anxious that you can't approach. Well, there's a little exercise I used to do for bootcamp students who get into this mode. Number 1, sit down. Unlock your ankle, knees, hips, shoulder, elbows, necks, and jaw. Now, concentrate directly on your feet, untense muscle. Take a deep breath and just concentrate on one sensation of your feet without resistance. Next, concentrate on your ankles. Next, concentrate on your calf muscle. Untense those muscles. Take a full breath while concentrating on the sensation without resistance. You do this every part of your body, all the way up to the top of your head. This is something that I want you to be able to use when you're having those very, very anxious thoughts in the middle of the club. In the short term, mimic those losers who are getting laid by just not resisting your thought and emotion. In the long term, do those things, exercise, eating greens, meditation, having your life handled, and you will give you that sense of relaxation. Next part of compelling authenticity, frame control. Extremely, extremely important concept. And something Derek, I think, and Jeff have been doing the best that I've seen in anyone in the world. So, what it is, everyone has their own worldview and their own version of reality. When two people talk to each other, they create a shared reality. And that is somewhere between these two realities. If someone has a strong frame and the other person has a weak frame, they create a reality will look like much more like the first guy's reality. So all those things that we talked about is going to build up like a better sense of knowing you and be able to communicate that to a girl that you're going to meet in the club, in the park, in the street, wherever you are. So I really encourage you to going through. I hope this was extremely valuable. It did help me a lot many years ago, so I'm sure it will. And again, we will be traveling more this month. I'll be in a lot of different places, and I hope you enjoy today. Have a great night, great day. Peace.